usually. Two cars in, like one plus stuff.
It's like a real wide door. You
Oh,
can fit two cars.
You can fit two?
Yeah.
And what do you think is your other garage for?
Keep it.
But for your stuff like a shed?
Just stuff.
Yeah.
Shed or something.
Yeah, garages are great.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Upper Darby Township Planning Commission meeting for August 14th of 2023. It's about 7:03. So roll call tonight. We're all in attendance with Cassandra being on Zoom. The meeting minutes from June had been, we didn't have a meeting in July. The meeting minutes from June were distributed. Does anybody have any corrections, changes? Steve? Oh.
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, communications and bills, we can move right through those. We can move right through saldo and zoning and reviews tonight because we don't have any developers present. So we can move to old business. Even though we didn't meet last month, we did have a meeting the next day for the specific purpose of reviewing the submissions for the Upper Darby Controller Box Art Contest. And we were able to move through the ranking and discussion of that and come out with a set of winners. And so I would like to congratulate tonight the following slate of artists. For the 69th and Market Street box, we chose the design by Isabella Hajutil Grande. For 69th and Ludlow, it was April McAleer. For 69th and Chestnut, Emily Namavong. For 69th and Sansom, Maria Aguilera's design. For 69th and Walnut, Robin Atwell. For 69th and Marshall, Erica Harney. The submissions were fantastic. It was hard to choose. There were so many that expressed joy and artistic flair and talent and seemed like very good things for people to view and enjoy while they were in the 69th Street area. And I think we're all going to be really happy with what we see coming from that contest. And I would like to thank Bola Watefe, who was the summer intern who had helped put the contest together. Okay, from there, our new business tonight is going to be to do just a review of some things going on in the township. Given that we don't have any developers in tonight, we thought we could catch up on a couple of things. Josh has said we're going to just take A off for tonight, though. We're going to hold on that for a little further development before we bring that forth. Okay. So then the next thing we're going to talk about is the SEPTA's 69th Street plan. So SEPTA had come to the building this week, spoke with Josh. Mike, did they also speak with you?
Yes,
Yeah.
not in the building, but we did a virtual
Yep.
call
Spoke
Friday.
with me. Josh, do you want to kick it off? And then Mike and I can throw in our comments too?
Yeah, so we started working with SEPTA probably a couple months ago because for those of you that don't know, they're doing a 69th Street Transportation Master Plan. I think this is kind of in order as part of their process of upgrading their fleet. They're also redoing a lot of kind of the background elements of 69th Street, a lot of the repairs, the bus pickups, some of the south terminal. And this is kind of part of their external stakeholder interview process. And Upper Darby is a pretty significant stakeholder for 69th Street. So we have a lot to say about, how we would like it to work and how we feel it would best work for us, especially, as being such an important entrance into our township. So right now, like as I said, they're just kind of doing external stakeholder interviews, and then they're going to come back with a long list of alternatives and I believe a short list of alternatives for the plan. And that's kind of where we're at in the stage. And they've been lucky enough to be we've been lucky enough that they've been very open and willing to work with us and, listen to our opinions and kind of let us assist them in this process.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting is they're upgrading their trolley fleet, they're upgrading their bus fleet, and their train fleet as well, right? All three? I think all three. Yeah, all three. So essentially what that's going to require is there's limited land space there. So they're looking at different options on potentially building up, building out, finding ways to accommodate the buses and the trolleys and the train fleet, because the infrastructure is bigger now, the equipment is bigger, the vehicles are bigger, so potential land development there down the line as they try to expand and grow. And I think he said it's probably like 2035. It's a long-term plan until they get everything updated, but it will come in phases and stages as they upgrade it. They also did have a big emphasis on 69th Street. We talked about trying to make it more pedestrian-friendly, safer, open, and that's something that they're going to look at along that corridor. And Josh, we've been talking about that too, because we've also, which is not for the topic of tonight, but also the Vision Zero plan with the county and the township, which is kind of ties into that. But that's a longer, bigger conversation, not ready for this evening.
Okay. Do they have plans? I mean, I get it, they need the shops and the yards to accommodate the new equipment, but the stuff that the public sees, is there plans for overhauling that?
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be both.
Okay.
It's going to be, what can we do to that front face, that front facing on Market Street? What can we do to the inside too, to make it more appealing? What can they do for PR? What could they, it's going to be, I think, an all-encompassing master plan.
Yeah, I felt I had a really good conversation with him. He started out with me by going over kind of some of their bigger, broader goals. And like, for example, the fact that that infrastructure of 69th Street has grown over the past 100 years, essentially, without, a lot of comprehensive, cohesive planning. And so as he was pointing out where like this shop, and it was very backyard kind of things. But I felt like from that standpoint, they really had, he seemed to really have his act together on where all the shortcomings were, what it was they had to work with, how they were going to make it better, and for their own purposes. But then he talked about things like, as part of the design, they want, and this leads toward pedestrian friendly or user friendliness, they want every vehicle, whether it's a trolley, a bus, a train, whatever it might be, for example, to have zero entry. Nobody's going up, nobody's going down, everybody can roll in, no matter what, whether you're a person with a walker, a wheelchair, or pushing a stroller, that there's less up and down, and everything is very friendly and maneuverable for everybody. So then that's sort of when he started talking about more of the people side, that they did seem to want to know, like, what do we think are the positives of it? And what were the negatives? What were the weaknesses? I had a lot more to say on that regard, just because the place has gotten old and out of date and stuff. We talked about people's opinions and what would make people more likely to come there. Why do they use it or why don't they use it? We talked about pedestrians, like just outside of it, how because it grew sort of unplanned, there's really no cohesive pedestrian flow. People are jaywalking all the time and going from here to there and trying to, there's nothing planned for how people should move about the facility. And we talked about double parking out front. There's no place to drop a person off or pick a person up. So they seemed very aware of what happens on the front side of this building. We talked about the bridge. Talked a lot about
The pedestrian bridge.
the pedestrian bridge. What are the positives and negatives of the pedestrian bridge? So there was I didn't get a feeling that there was any like this is what we want to do. It was at the point of let's banty about all this stuff. I thought it was good.
So is the bridge, you said the positive, negative, what's the positive?
Can you use the mic, please?
Of the bridge?
Yeah.
Oh,
What would be the positive of the bridge?
The,
I mean, if they didn't say anything, then they said nothing, that's fine, but I'd be curious, so I can start
Avoiding
thinking
cars.
differently.
the only positives of the bridge were that,
I would-
yes, that
yeah.
some people use it to avoid cars.
Okay.
A lot of people.
That was pretty much it. Yeah, it was, the negatives were that it was outdated, that it's in the way, that, all the things you could think of. It's not particularly friendly to people, given their other goal of that everybody has easy access in and out, getting up and down. That thing, while it's good for some people to get across the streets, largely not good for most people to get across the street. The visual aspect of it was really a lot. The way it interferes with the streetscape, the way it interferes with you as a pedestrian coming up 69th Street towards the terminal or coming out of the terminal and being presented with what Upper Darby has to offer. It's kind of just, it's in the way. You
Who
can't,
owns it? Who paid for it?
I don't know. I think Upper Darby does.
Upper Darby owns it. He did make a point to say that, given current standards, it would be very difficult to get that bridge permitted if we were to want to build it today.
It'd be impossible.
Nothing's ever impossible. I mean, if you really want to, if you really have political will and you want to get it done and you want to, make it accessible, there'd be ways to get it done. Of course, anything could be built, but it would be a very hard sell because it's not a really great amenity because it doesn't treat all users. It's only for a single, not ADA compliant.
So is the plan basically the same plan like 6 years ago that they just stopped talking about?
Are you referring to the downtown vision plan?
Yeah, where they were like putting like no trees in and they said we just don't have the luxury of greenery.
Well, that's a township, right? This is.
No, SEPTA. SEPTA's
SEPTA
plan
was-
6 years ago. They were going great guns and,
I think the idea now is to develop a master plan for that transportation center. So they're soliciting input on how to make it better and more user-friendly, pedestrian-friendly. And if they're upgrading all the trains or upgrading all the infrastructure, all their vehicles, they want to make sure people are using them. So they want to get ways for people to use the station, like whether by bike, walking, easier modes of transportation to get to the different trolley stops and the SEPTA
oh,
transportation
no, I get
center.
that, but they were building a parking garage 6 years ago.
I don't believe that's on the table anymore.
That's what I'm trying to find
Yeah.
out. What
Yeah,
is
I
it?
think-
It's not the old plan.
No,
No.
No.
no, it appears that they are starting over.
Well, a big waste of time and energy, wasn't it?
I think that was more of they were trying to get a public-private partnership going.
Oh. And this-
SEPTA was hoping someone would build them a parking garage.
Oh.
You can have the apartments above it.
And I'm not sure ridership is the same
Right.
as it was pre-pandemic, and I'm not sure it really warrants a parking garage at the moment. I mean, maybe we'll get back up there, but I
So
don't think
is there
that's
any
on the
extra
table for now.
space they're trying to acquire? Or are they trying, is there, like, I don't really know the topographical.
So
of
right
where
now,
it is.
they're just asking input from us, what works, what doesn't, what would we like to see, what are our woes, what.
So they didn't mention new space. Like, I can't even
We haven't
imagine-
gotten
is
any
there-
alternatives yet.
Is there any space there, Mike?
They talked about building up.
Building it. I
So
heard that part, yeah.
actually, adding a second story to their maintenance facility so they can service the trains and the buses.
When you say we haven't received any alternatives, you mean alternatives to what's there now or alternative to a plan that exists now?
No. So as part of the plan, they're going to come up with like a long list of alternatives and then narrow that list down. And then from those, make, what are the objectives to achieve those? So
Right, so
they've
there's
it's got to
no-
come from upper SEPTA.
Right, so there's no plan in place now that or let me rephrase. They didn't present you a plan.
No.
And then you guys were discussing that. They're still
They're
soliciting.
building the
So
plan
there's
right
no-
now.
right, okay.
Which is honestly a much better time to get involved.
Right, that's what I'm asking. I just
Than
wanted to be
after when
clear.
they've made their plan and they're like, oh yeah, what do you think?
Right.
No, he was really at the very beginning.
Now, do you think, maybe maybe this is a little too soon, but do you think at some point, even before they actually put together a plan to present, that they would come to the planning commission just to, discuss this or something like that? Or have they established sort of a procedure of engaging with us outside of sort of like just soliciting ideas?
Not yet. So right now, we're just here for the external stakeholder interviews.
Okay.
Right, obviously their first interviews were like, we're the people that work inside of 69th Street, their
Right,
maintenance, their
sure.
building, the people that are going to be, affected on their end. And now they're kind of reaching out, they're doing some external, they're doing township staff, they're doing nonprofits, they're doing local businesses. And they're kind of just trying to gather all of that input. I hope as they get to that short list of alternatives, they can start giving presentations. And then, hopefully that would be a time where we can get the feedback from the planning commission, whether it's a formal presentation or maybe you guys just submitting some feedback back after they send out a presentation or something
Yeah,
like that.
I pressed him on that a little bit because he seemed so receptive. His question, like he kind of had a list of questions and I thought, oh, wow, this does seem like a time where we can have an impact. And he talked about the project going from this gathering stage to a set, like a big set of like, well, we could do it this way, we could do it this way, like maybe 10 ideas pop out. And then he wanted to go, then like from that, they want to narrow it down to like the top 2 or 3. And so I said to him, like, we would love to have this conversation keep going. I kind of got the nod from him that he felt like when they start getting stuff on paper, he will come back to us, whether that's at the 10 step or to narrow it down. I think once they've got the big set of alternatives, I felt like, yes, then he's going to come back for our input as they go down to the smaller set of alternatives.
And as planning commission members, right, you can always reach out to me
Yeah.
if you want me to send over input, as we're moving along throughout the year and you notice things. Send me your thoughts and I'll make sure that they get over to SEPTA.
Do we have a sense of like kind of what their perceived timeline is for like putting this together?
2035.
I think this is one of their, for the plans or,
For the master plan, like, do they have a goal already? in
you know
terms of,
what,
like-
they did show me a timeline. And I don't remember it off the top of my head. I think that was like for. the
That's to
very
be,
end.
that's like construction and stuff. I
I
thought,
just meant for the
Yeah,
plan,
for
not
the-
that.
I know,
phys-
I know.
not to-
yeah, the plan
You
itself,
know what I mean?
it wasn't too bad. I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't too bad. Like it wasn't,
2033.
yeah.
All right, it looks.
2 years.
It looks like, so, November was the 2022 to February 2023 existing conditions. February through March 23 goals, needs and assessment. March through June 2023 alternative development. And then, June through September 2023, that's probably shot. Yeah, because we're already past that. So my guess is later this fall, we'll start getting the alternatives.
Do we actually have a formal say, as far as any of the, do we actually have a formal say in any of this?
I don't think we have a formal approval for this, but, right, as they're doing these large, projects, they will have to go through the standard land development process.
I was gonna say that, how do we, you meant like for the plan, but for the
Don't-
actual development, we certainly do,
Right, for the actual
Because-
development, I don't think for the individual, for the plan, there might be a period where we can publicly comment on it, but I don't think,
Yeah.
I don't think we would have any sort of approval authority over it. We can we could probably write a recommendation letter
Right, we can do a letter for sure.
if they want it, or even if they don't.
Even if we don't, right, we can still do that.
Does anybody know, do they have any SEPTA police in the terminal at present? Does anybody know that?
Yeah, they have a station yes, they have a station there.
The station?
With,
Because I've never seen anybody in there.
oh, really?
I've been offered drugs and stuff like that, but I've never,
Sometimes I see them.
you have?
I have seen them, yes.
Yeah. I hadn't. I never-
Did they announce, but do we know if they've just determined like a partner for, like a development partner? Because usually SEPTA doesn't do this stuff on their own. They usually partner with.
Not
company
that
or
I
anything
know
like that.
of.
Do you have a sense of,
The guy who spoke to us, was he an actual SEPTA employee or was he a consultant?
He's an actual SEPTA.
Okay.
What was his name?
Joe Clemens. He's, I think, mess up his title, but he is the manager of strategic planning and analysis for SEPTA, because they do have a planning team. I don't know if you know Ryan Judge, but he's on the planning team as well for SEPTA. He used to work at the county.
Okay.
is the
so-
county, like, have they talked to the county as well?
So the county's going to be a stakeholder interview as well for them to talk to. I believe they're speaking sometime soon.
Yeah.
They wanted to start with us, so we're kind of the beginning of the external. And I actually saw that a bunch more emails went out to some of the other.
Yeah. I felt like he was really open. He was really open to as much negative stuff as I wanted to throw at him. So, okay, so we will keep tabs on their timeline and try to make sure that we have other opportunities to speak with them and have all of us see what's going on and speak with them. So the next thing is Mike was going to talk to us about the various trail projects that are going on in the township.
Here, Mike, actually, can I give a little intro?
Sure.
So I just wanted to give, I just wanted to put this on the agenda because we've been doing a lot of trail work, and we've been working with Bill Kaplan a lot. He's Director of Leisure Services. And I know there's been a lot of kind of grants going out there and a lot of like individual work. And what we've all kind of done is just kind of took a step back and tried to look at the big picture. We've been doing a lot of work with the Pennsylvania Environmental Coalition,
Environmental Council.
Council,
Yeah,
sorry, PEC.
Yep.
And then also with DVR, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, to, try and figure out how we can go about building the trails and the Circuit Trail program. And that's just kind of, I wanted to share that with you to get that into your minds, right, as you go through and do some of these really important land developments that are along some of these proposed trails, now or in the future. Right, and that's something we want to think about, right, as we kind of move into the next stage of transportation Upper Darby, is not only, right, how do our streets connect, but how do our trails connect us from institution to institution? And a lot of that can come from the Planning Commission.
So there's a couple trails there's two trails in mind that come into my head when I think about the trails that we've been working on in Upper Darby. There's the Darby Creek Trail, which extends along Darby Creek through Gillespie Park, down through Kemp Park, along the creek. And then it also extends up a portion of it all the way through Drexel Line up to Haverford. Obviously, all those trails are not constructed at this time, but we did recently work on two projects. One, the Darby Creek Trail in Gillespie Park, which extended from Bloomfield Avenue through Gillespie Park over to Creekside, where the Swedish Cabin is. The first phase, we constructed the asphalt portion, and we put the stormwater infrastructure in. There's green infrastructure along the trail itself. And then the second phase would have been the bridges. So right now, we've constructed one of the bridges. It's a 150-foot span bridge. It extends over Darby Creek, connects to the Swedish Cabin. That'll connect Gillespie Park all the way down through to Kemp Park. There's another bridge proposed that would connect which is not, it still needs funding, still in planning, would connect the other side of Gillespie Park and would connect you up to Bloomfield Avenue. And from there, it would extend further up to Drexel Line. Another phase of the trail that's under construction is, as Josh mentions, land developments, is Drexel Line. So we have a piece of the trail within the Drexel Line development that was planned within that development. Now, that's an 8-foot wide pedestrian trail, but that's also along the circuit. And these are all what we call circuit trails. So the county has their circuit trail network. I think Josh is pulling that up on the screen. And the circuit trail network is essentially a network of trails in Delaware County that, interconnect various municipalities along creeks and other major corridors to develop that network. The county's been very aggressive in the circuit trail, and along with DVRPC and along with the municipalities that reside in Delaware County, because with the push, when we look at grant opportunities, we have Delco Greenways, we have Greenway Trails and Recreation, multimodal. A lot of them will fund the trail construction. So that's what we've been using to fund these projects. So, for example, Darby Creek Trail was funded through Delco Greenways, GTRP, and other funding sources, which were grant funded. Some capital funding from the township, but a lot of, different funding sources. Even DVRPC had a funding source for the bridge construction, which we're working on. We work on, Debbie and I often work on getting reimbursed, because when you spend the money, you got to get reimbursed, so the grant's worthless, right? So we obviously work on that and we get reimbursed. So when we spend the money, we make sure the township gets the money back. That's one section of trail. Now, there's another section. Is that the Cardington Trail we're looking at, or Cardington Newtown Trail
Yeah.
/ Nowers Run Trail?
Yeah, so that's the circuit trail going up the middle, follows, right, the old rail line, for the most part. And then there's different sections of it, right, that are planned or in progress or existing.
So as you can see on the screen right now, there is, this is the Circuit Trail DVRPC website, where you can go on, you can see what trails are in planning, what trails are under construction, what trails have been constructed. The section that Josh is highlighting right there is the Nowers Run Trail. That trail connects through Chapman Park. It connects to, there's not a full trail connection in all these locations. Sometimes we're in a PICO right away, we're doing coordination. There might be driveways and decks and sheds within the right of way that could be difficult to move.
Okay.
So we have to work around them for now.
If you're past them, if you're done, yeah.
But,
If there's a shed in the trail, then that means that people are
well,
placing it inappropriately.
it becomes, yeah, they place them inappropriately, but some people have been there for years and you got to work, PICO would have to work to get certain obstructions removed. And that's a longer discussion, but majority, like the trail in Chapman Park that's under construction right now, it's an asphalt trail, 12-foot wide, connects,
Where's that go from where to where?
that starts, so if you go to Chapman Park, alternate route takes you over to Pembroke Avenue, and then it'll take you all the way down through Ruskin Lane, down to Long Lane, and then there's a spur that takes you out to Marshall Road. Ultimately, the long-term goal there would be to construct a bridge that goes over Marshall Road on that trail, so you have direct connection up to Nowers Run Park. In the meantime, though, there's an alternate route that'll take you through the development to get you to Marshall Road, so you can go up and actually up where Beverly Hills Park is. Everybody know where that is? I think there's other names for it as well, Beverly Hills Park. It's, it could, some people call it, you know, one thing about Upper Darby, what's that?
Beverly Hills Recreation.
Beverly Hills Recreation Area. One thing about Upper Darby, every project has two different names. It's, I'm not kidding you, every project has a different name, but Beverly, or some parks have multiple names. So the trail would take you through Beverly Hills Park, and then there's a little dirt path that takes you down, it takes you up to Nowers Run Park, and that would take you up, you know, provide a great connection throughout the township, which also connects to, which is interesting, it connects to one of the projects that we were going to talk about tonight, which is the Garrett Road Modernization Project, which is coupled with a top project. So we have, within the township, there are multiple projects that deal with trails, bicycle infrastructure, so that residents will have access throughout the township, whether on-road or off-road, to get to the various amenities, being maybe a SEPTA station or a transportation station or so on and so forth. Now, the one thing that we always try to do is we try to construct what we, you know, as much as we can with the funding we have, and we're constantly planning the next phase. So there's other phases of the Cardington Newtown Trail / Nowers Run Trail, where, you know, there's multiple phases of that project that will extend up through Beverly Hills Recreation Field, through Nowers Run Park, all the way up to where Haverford is to get you through the township, so you can physically bike throughout the township. Garrett Road Modernization will link in there. That'll take you down, all the way down Garrett Road toward the municipal building, 69th Street Transportation Center. So someone theoretically on the other side of town, over at the, you know, Chapman Park area, would be able to take that trail all the way around one day and get right down to the transportation center. There may be an earlier stop along the way. There could be, you know, maybe a bus stop along the way they didn't get to, but if they want to get right to that transportation center, they could ride their bike down, or even just for recreation. It's not just for transportation, it's for recreation as well. And I will say, the contractor paved the section of Cardington Trail. You already see people walking on it. There were people walking on it before, but the people walking on it, they're very thankful. Before it was muddy, it was like a muddy area. It was kind of like not very inviting. Now you have a trail there. People can walk. I see people taking their kids out on scooters and stuff like that. So they do get a lot of use. And it's been pretty good turnout so far on the trails. And I will say too, when we go to Gillespie Park, the people are just enamored. They're like, this looks beautiful. And there's other initiatives down there that were done as well. Like, there's the goats, of course, everybody loves the goats, but along with the goats, the Shade Tree, I think it's Shade Tree Commission that did all the plantings. Yeah, there's plenty of planting. I see, when I walk on the trail, I see people walk by and they say, wow, that looks beautiful, because they did all, the whole riparian buffer zone out there to replant it. So if you ever get a chance, I don't know if you ever get a chance to go down to Gillespie Park, but go down there, check it out, you'll see it looks really good. And it's a great amenity for the township. That's all I got, Josh. Anything else?
So how far out are we funded? You were saying like we do it as much as we're funded and then we plan for the next stage. Like how far out in the plan are we funded for?
That's a good question. There were additional sections of, and Josh could probably touch on that a lot too, because Josh has been much more, Josh and Bill Kaplan, they've been very involved with the funding, but we have grants to extend, additional planning grants to extend the trail. We have I think we have about 2 grants right now. There's a DCNR grant to extend the trail, and we also have a Delco Greenways grant to do a planning section for different sections of the trail network. I think it would be helpful maybe to email the members the actual the different trail plans. You can see what sections, because when I refer to the sections, and Jeff may notice, I got like section 6, section 8, section 7. It would be like, that's what's in my mind because I've been looking at this plan so much. So for example, sections 1, 2, and 3, which are, I would say, where would you
I
say
think
they are?
I think it's in the Nailers Run plan.
Oh, it's
that
in the
we're-
Nailers
that
Run
we're
plan.
passing around. It will tell you.
Oh, I
what
didn't see that. Okay.
Each section is.
Yeah, so there's different sections through different parts of the township. And when that plan was done, they actually divided it up in sections. And I think mainly because it's how you kind of go for your funding. You do section 1, all right, section 2 can get done, or section 3, so you can tie it all together and piece it all together to get the trail constructed. And not all sections are the same. Some sections are straightforward. You go to PICO, get the right-of-way, you build. Some sections, you might need to talk to property owners, get easements, negotiate, some kind of an easement to make it work. But it's been every trail is different, every project's different, and the township's been really pushing hard to get this infrastructure in place.
Yeah, and so it's important, Mike, that you bring up, right, the different trail easements that go in, because, right, that is one of the bargaining chips that the township has when these projects are going through the land development process, right? They can say, hey, we like your plan, but we want to see a trail. We want to see a connection. We know you're along this trail. Like, if you can make that happen, you can tie into our multimodal plan, you can support our comprehensive plan, then we can support this. And it's an important bargaining chip that the township has, that we want to make sure we use. And then, I guess, Mike, I don't think we have anything that's past engineering that isn't already in construction, right?
It's all in yes. That's
So
correct.
anything that we have engineering for is already in construction. Everything else, we just might have plans for, or a more general plan, not like a detailed section plan.
So since trails are new to us, what's a daylight activity hours only?
Can you
Like,
speak
are
into the
signs posted,
microphone?
Microphone. Yeah, talking to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it on?
Are these trails focused on daylight activity only? I know there's signs posted to that, and what's going to be the cost at the end run of maintaining them? Is it going to be like crazy expensive or almost nothing?
Well, that's a good question. So you have to cut the grass. You have to do your regular maintenance. Every 10, 15 years, 20 years, you have to resurface it. So there is an ongoing maintenance cost to the
And
trail.
that's on us, the resurfacing. You get a grant to put it down, but then you're responsible for the.
Similar to like when we pave a road, yeah, we'd have to resurface it. There are, benefits of the trail. For example, it does help with property values. It does help with the community, marketing the community. When people, think about Upper Darby, they think about a great trail network. When you think about a town and you have a good recreation network, it really goes a long way.
Oh, I'm not done
Yeah.
on that. I'm not, that's not. a
But
question.
yeah, that's some of the benefits. But yeah, you're correct. We have to maintain the infrastructure. We have to maintain the stormwater that goes in. We have to maintain the signage. As far as hours of operation, that would be more of a Bill Kaplan question.
Okay.
And what signage you would like to see out there on certain trails. Some trails.
I didn't
people-
see any posted.
We
yet.
don't
That's
have
why I was
any
asking.
specific light requirements, like lighting on the trail. So if there's no lighting, you assume people would tend to not walk it at night, but you never know. I mean, people could still walk it at night. That's possible.
Well, it depends upon what the purposes of their activities, so,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it could have, yeah, exactly. I guess, yeah, I mean,
Just curious, like if somebody's factoring in how much it's going to cost in 10 years annually, in 20 years. I mean, we have an older town with lots of old expenses. So do we want to dump these on the next group? I mean, I want the trails. I think that if we don't have them, but I just want to make sure we talk about that too as we progress.
Absolutely.
Is there a corporate sponsorship plan for any of this? Private donor partnership at all?
Not yet, but I know I've had a lot of conversation with Bill, and we want to get the community excited. We want to get them involved. I mean, and this is, kind of one of the ways of starting to bring it out, to the people. I think there's been a small group of people working very hard for the trails, and I don't think it's been kind of brought out to the general public in a way that would, render public support that these projects are really going to need. So to answer your question, I don't think there is at the moment, but hopefully there will be one day. Hopefully we can, work with even, bars and restaurants to have, right, trail side, stops and places to eat and sit and grab a drink or have a coffee, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be the same as when a corporation adopts part of the highway, beautification. There's a lot of corporations that I think would jump at the chance for that kind of visibility.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Nope, nope. Okay, Kyle, is it? We didn't have any developments in for review tonight, so we didn't specifically have a public comment portion, but would you like to make a public comment? Or if you were just here to observe, that's fine too. I just wanted to give you an opportunity.
I do have a comment.
Okay.
Kyle always has something to say. Do I have to do the name thing?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Kyle McIntyre, 1040 Drexel Ave. There's actually a question regarding the last meeting. Well, not the July one, because that was
The June.
postponed, the June.
Yes.
I was wondering regarding the revisement to the Drexel Line property, what your guys's, I guess, arguments were for approving that change. It was a pretty significant change. I'd only just found out about it, and I know there's a lot of community members that have just now found out that the apartments have been completely removed from the plan that are not happy, to be honest, to put it lightly. That was a significant investment in the community, and I'll say specifically as somebody who's pretty young, we are facing an affordability crisis. It is impossible to find apartments to rent. And the apartments that are available to rent are not the best. Since in the last 3 years, average rents went from $900 a month to now $1,200. And those are the same apartments. They're not getting in better condition, I should point out, but they are going up in price. So I really just wanted to hear what your guys' arguments were for approving that, because I mean, we saw that as a pretty significant change and kind of conditional on their whole development process. And also to build a parking garage next to a trolley station is a little ridiculous, to be honest, to say it bluntly.
Yeah, so I can start out, Kyle. I too was very disappointed that it was switching from apartment to office building. For similar reasons, thinking transit-oriented development, more affordable, the more supply we put on the market of housing, obviously the more affordable it'll get. I think where I fell out on it specifically was that the project has been so delayed for so long. And the developer had come in with a very solid tenant. Because I questioned him specifically, if we are in this era of people not going back to work every single day, they're working remotely. We have so many places in big cities where they're trying to figure out what to do with empty office buildings. Why would we want another one? And their answers at least made me comfortable that they had a tenant that was strong and was going to continue to stay there, continue to pay, and that we weren't going to have any issues with an empty office building. I also was questioning the idea of, the number of feet on the ground and how that could help keep the smaller end businesses going. Like there's going to be the ShopRite, but there's going to be a couple of pad sites and other things. And the fact that if you have apartments there, you can have feet on the ground at night, people coming out, whereas if you have office buildings, people are going to go home. Again, their data, their numbers seem to support that they were going to have as big an impact on being able to keep other businesses going. So frankly, my opinion was, this has been going on a long time. The trade-off seems safe, and let's get the project done. So that's sort of my thought, but certainly we
No,
chatted,
I agree.
chatted quite a bit about it. Does anybody, Steve, anything additional?
No, I mean, I'll be honest, I never thought the apartments were a positive attribute of the whole project to begin with.
Well, I mean, I can definitely say that a good chunk of the community specifically supported this program and project because of the apartments. Given the fact that our township really has not seen any major residential developments in a long time. I mean, like, there's a famous saying in development and planning, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. And especially when we're talking about these office, like, I understand that the project has gone on for a long time, but it's a worrying sign that if a private corporation who promises to develop something comes in and says later down the road, I don't really actually want to do this, and it was part of the original plan, that it's just going to be revoked, that their obligations will be, I mean, what's the point of negotiating with a private entity if the private entity is let off the hook at every single second? I mean, it's not a good look for our township, and it sure as hell isn't a good look for our government. And I mean, I know that I think it has to go to a resolution for council tomorrow, actually. I would encourage everyone on the planning commission to please watch that upcoming meeting, because there's going to be a lot of community members with a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts. And I think it'll be helpful for you guys to hear that. I know it might delay the project a little more, but, we're not, I mean, this is planning. It's not the element of, the next couple of years, it's the next couple of decades. For people like myself, I have to live in Upper Darby for the next couple of decades. It makes it a lot more difficult to stay in this township when there's nowhere to live. And for the school district's point, I do think a majority of those apartments were actually going to be studios. So my generation is not having kids like the older generations, to be completely blunt. So the school district can kind of kick rocks a little bit. Like, it's a temporary problem. You'll get over it. I digress. But thank you for sharing your thoughts. Like I said, all I can say is I encourage everyone to please listen to those comments tomorrow, especially from the community members. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
What meeting's tomorrow?
Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about talking about that. Oh, sorry, I didn't come here to just complain. Sorry.
Wednesday too.
I should, thank you, Josh. That's actually a really important point. So the Mural Arts Program. I do run the Upper Darby Mural Arts Program. We finally got it off the ground thanks to council. They gave us an ARPA grant. So we have some money to paint some murals around the township. We're currently scoping out some sites here or there. I think there are 2 sites actually in this area that we're looking at. Basically the 2 churches, there's the Korean Baptist Church, and then there's the other church that faces the municipal lot. So those are 2 big walls that we're looking at. We're also doing, I think you guys talked about it already, because you guys are doing your own electrical box painting. We're actually looking at painting some utility boxes as well, so you might actually get some additional ones. All the information's on our website. But yeah, I mean, of course, if you guys have any feedback, we are actually asking for feedback currently in the development process. We have our artists, they're currently designing the artworks. And taking more community input. All of them are local artists. We specifically are trying to target mostly younger individuals and specifically highlight elements of diversity and inclusion, especially since Upper Darby is, well, the world in one place. So kind of want to represent that. Yeah, I think that's everything. I don't know. You guys have any questions? I guess if you guys have any questions for the
I'm
Mural Arts
sorry,
Program.
what did you say the website was?
Yeah. Oh, so sorry. udtj.org/mural arts. I should have all the information. We're looking for property owners. I'm trying to think of some of we actually reached out to SEPTA. So as I was listening to the design plan, which I definitely say this should probably come up between us and SEPTA as well, since we just talked to them about possibly painting murals at the terminal. If they're going to redevelop it, like, let's make sure to talk about that before we paint the murals. I would hate to paint a mural and then it just be destroyed. But yeah, we've been talking to SEPTA. We actually talked to the police department. We might actually do a community mural with the police department. which I know might surprise some people coming from UDTJ to paint a mural with the police department, but we're trying. Let's see what else is there. I think that's everything. Yeah, do you guys have any questions for us as the mural arts program? Because I know it's kind of new and I just thrust this guy upon you guys.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see it take off.
Okay.
See it take off.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. All right. Well, that's everything. Thank you.
Okay, anybody, any extra comments here? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
So be it. Thank you all.